Good morning, Mr. Richard.
Good morning.
We're about to begin, okay?
All right.
Good morning. My name is Parole Officer Smelly. Today's January 17th, 2025, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Parole. The following board members are present this morning and by state their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Nancy Turner, good morning.
Good morning, Joy Chance.
And I'm Ellen Sapo-Sasu.
Also present is our Office of Victim Service Advocate, Ms. DeJesus. Please state your name and inmate number for the record, sir.
Rumone Richard, 391-569.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration for the parole application for Rumone Richard, 391-569. He is serving a sentence of 20 years, execution suspended after 12 years jail with 3 years probation to follow. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of May 13, 2025 at 85%. There is victim input in this case. The offender has an offender accountability plan. A review of the plan shows the offender has completed good intentions, bad choices, tier 2 voices, anger management. He was discharged without prejudice from, and that was due to a job from December of 2019. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system scores, the offender overall score for recidivate falls within the moderate range. Mr. Rumone, this is your opportunity. Mr. Richard, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole.
I have a letter. It's okay if I read it.
Yes.
I deeply appreciate this opportunity to speak. I've waited a long time to express my sincere and hopeful remorse to the victim of my crime. I'm here not to justify my reckless actions or the harm I caused, but to truly apologize for the profound impact my offense has had on your life and the lives of your loved ones. This should have never happened. Since I've been incarcerated, I've been working on self-improvement and adapting to the challenges of living with a disability resulting from my own poor choices. I've actively participated in rehabilitation programs, including completing Tier 2, Voices, Good Intention, Bad Choices, and Anger Management. I also earned my GED and completed computer education courses. My reentry plan focuses on securing employment in a wheelchair-accessible workplace. I understand the gravity of my actions and the pain I have caused. I sincerely apologize to the victim and their family, to the broader community, and to my own family for the suffering I have inflicted. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Richard, thank you for taking the time to write that statement out. We've read the documents that were available to us, and we've prepared some questions to ask you. When we're done with that, we'll turn it over to the Office of Victim Services, and then the three of us on the panel will discuss your case and make a decision this morning. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll begin with the questions. I appreciate that you started with an apology. You did apologize in court, which was appropriate, but it's good for the public, and if the victims are listening, for them to hear about your remorse. And I also appreciate your apology included the community, because whenever there's gun violence, it really shakes everyone's sense of security and makes an atmosphere of fear that it's not feeling safe to go out and live our lives, because you never know what will happen. So you said this should never have happened, and I'm going to ask you, Mr. Richards, why did it happen?
Due to my poor choices, just not making the right decisions at the time.
But I want to know why.
But there's no reason why it happened. It's just a bad night that should never have occurred.
Well, what the picture is that you were prohibited from possessing firearms and ammunition. So you were in the illegal possession of a gun that was loaded, and you were using marijuana every day. So that impairs one's judgment, one's reflexes, one's decision-making.
Yes.
So you and your co-defendant were out in the community, and you decided to rob this group of people. Why?
I can't give you a reason why we've done it. It's just that, I mean, we just end up just making poor decisions that night that affected somebody's life.
But Mr. Richard, it was a series of poor decisions, because you at some point acquired a firearm when you knew you weren't supposed to have one.
Yes.
And at the time you were smoking marijuana that wasn't at that point legal. So what path was your life on that it went so far south?
Just a downhill spiral of making a whole lot of poor choices from friends and the people I hung out with, and just led to me involving myself in this incident that occurred. And I've worked, since I've been here, I've worked hard to make sure I don't make those choices again, which included GED, so I could find some work.
Congratulations on getting your GED. That's not an easy accomplishment. So it's good to see that you invested in your future by getting that taken care of during this period of incarceration. So you referred to the incident in the parking garage as, something that went bad. Is that because one of the victims pulled out a firearm to defend themselves?
Oh, just the whole incident in general, from how the night started off to how the night ended, it was all bad around itself.
Would you be this remorseful if you didn't suffer a gunshot wound?
Yes, I would.
I hope so. So you're going to go out to probation with 8 years of this sentence hanging over your head. So, be very aware that, you need to comply with the conditions of your supervision, because if you fail to do so, you could be serving those 8 years there in the facility, and then you'd be going out in your 40s. We call that middle age. I'm encouraging you to take this seriously, sir.
Yes.
You'll have responsibilities, whether you're granted parole or you go out to probation. You haven't been successful on supervision the 2 times that you've been given the opportunity. You've never done a treatment program successfully out in the community, correct?
No.
Okay, so you completed Tier 2, and that was back in 2017.
Yes.
Do you have a problem with substances?
Not I think, but I'm always open to continue some type of program, AA or NA, to help me move forward.
Maybe some of your addiction is to the lifestyle you were living?
Yes, that's a good.
Addictions can take all different forms. So my concern, sir, is that you completed that program. Did you do any aftercare? Do you attend AA or NA meetings there in the facility?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Are you aware of other people who are serving their sentences that are struggling with addiction?
Yes, I am.
So you know the walk, you know, recovery is a day by day, sometimes hour by hour commitment, right?
Yes.
So why the Pruno?
Just part of my addiction. I never seen that was a problem until recently when I had the meeting with P.O. Smelly, where I seen that it's actually part of my addiction that I wasn't aware of until it was brought to light by her. So
Were you making the Pruno?
yes,
Were you selling it?
I was selling it and indulging myself.
And at the same time, you were putting at risk the recovery of so many offenders struggling there in the facility. So why would you make that choice?
I don't know. It's just a choice that I didn't see was a problem until, like I said, I remember P.O. Smelly and seeing
But you
that it
knew
was,
you were violating the rules.
yeah,
You knew you had a chance at parole.
yes.
So it was just plain selfishness.
No, I wouldn't say it's plain selfishness. I just think it was just
Boredom.
me just, yeah, boredom, trying to have something to do, lack of activity, not filling in my free time with something more positive.
Why would you not choose something more positive? You just got your GED.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have a completely different lifestyle when you go out. So why wouldn't you be focused on your future? Because you know what it says to me is you didn't learn anything in tier 2. So in my book, you don't get any credit for that. Because if you would choose to go and make Pruno there in the facility because you didn't put your energies into something positive in direct violation of the rules, it's hard to trust that you're going to come out in the community. I mean, this was just last year, and not once, but 3 times. So that says to me, you don't give a damn.
No, I wouldn't say that because after I
If
completed
you
my
did it once and you got a consequence, why would you choose to do it again and again? That says you don't give a damn.
I still want to say that that's the point.
Okay. Right.
I would say it's just that, like, it's lack of activities for someone in my condition to actually follow through with. Because as you can see that after I completed my GED, I went forward to vocational ed and accomplished, get my computer educational course finished, fully completed. So I think it was just a lack of boredom and just extra free time on my hands that made me make those decisions. So,
But at some point, Mr. Richard, you decided not to pick up a book, not to join a program, but to secret away the ingredients in your cell to ferment in order to have Pruno, so that you could, you know, perhaps escape your reality there in the prison by getting intoxicated. And that goes to your decision making. And you're sitting here telling us that your crime was poor choices, bad decisions. And I'm trying to measure some change and some growth in you, sir, and I'm struggling to find that. So why don't we talk about victim impact? You took the Voices program, you've apologized to your victims in your community. What do you think you put them through?
a lot of restless nights and just hard times, and I don't know, there's a lot.
I'm asking you, elaborate. Tell me more. Hard times, restless nights.
Maybe just scared to be out in the community, just in general, just afraid to have one good night turn into one bad night when it was just
A nightmare. A nightmare. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that generalized fear is anxiety.
Yes.
You think it had a financial impact on them?
Yes, more than likely had to take time away from work due to my actions that have caused. Yes, I do.
Medical bills, expenses to pay for counseling and therapy to try to deal from the trauma. Probably added lots of security measures to their home, maybe their cars, maybe they bought guns.
Yeah.
And then what do you think their family members have endured?
Having to help them get through it. Whatever they have to deal with, I have no idea.
Watching them suffer, a feeling of helplessness because it's over and done and their loved one is still struggling. It's really important, Mr. Richard, that you reflect on the full impact of the choices that you made out in the community that caused tremendous harm. You need to fully appreciate, because understanding that is going to help inform the decisions that you make down the road so that you don't do this kind of senseless act, that you are fully responsible for your behavior in the community.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'm going to pass the opportunity on to my colleagues to ask you their questions. Ms. Zappo-Sasu?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Richard.
Good morning.
We're not here to retry your case or anything like that, but I had one of the same questions written down that my colleague did, and I don't feel that you've answered it. In terms of what found you in that parking lot that night, what was the goal? Was it money? Was it, something else? Why were you there, and what made you make that decision to go out and find someone to rob that night? What were you looking for?
I think it was more money and just the fact that not utilizing my time properly and poor judgment, being around with the wrong group of friends, and not being able to be myself. Maybe.
So if you had successfully completed this robbery without everything that happened to follow, and you had gotten money from this family that had just left the restaurant, what would you have done with that money? I'm trying to put together a time frame of what was happening in your life at the age of 22 or 23 at that point. What was happening? What would you have done with a pocket full of money if you had been successful in executing this robbery?
At that time in my life, I was looking for a job and I hadn't finished my education. So I'm fully aware of the things that I had needed to equip myself with, and that was holding me back to move forward. So this is why I most likely took the advantage at this time to complete my GED and try and have some type of vocal course under me, so I'll have something to go back into the community with, so it won't put me back into another situation where I have to make poor decisions due to the lack of resources that I had for me. So,
and I understand that, and I appreciate the fact that you've acknowledged that this is a problem. But decision making, good decision making, is a skill that's learned, and it's a skill that's practiced. And my concern about your ability to go out and make these good decisions is based on the fact that the files that we have in front of us do state that you didn't have any real employment history, that your mother was primarily responsible for supporting you financially, and that you made the decision to drop out of school in 10th grade because you didn't feel like going anymore. What did your mother think about that decision back in the 10th grade when you told her, this isn't for me?
She thought it was a bad idea, that it wasn't going to be a good move moving forward. And she told me that she didn't think it was a good idea and I should have followed through with completing school so I could build my own future and be able to accomplish something in life.
Right. So you quit school and you had a couple of short-term small jobs, but for the most part, what were you doing with your time now that you weren't in school and you weren't working? Was that when the bad friends and social situations came up, and were your friends making the same bad decisions that you were at that age?
Yes.
Okay. And if you're going back to live with your mother, who is part of your release plan, is that Bridgeport? Are you going back to Bridgeport?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously your life has changed dramatically, physically, emotionally, and hopefully mentally since you've been incarcerated. What does that look like for you returning to a city which some of those peer groups, I mean, are you in touch with anybody? What does that look like? Is it the same house? Is it the same neighborhood? What are you preparing for?
I have made time to change the friends that I hang around with and weed out the ones that want the best for me as I want for myself. So that has changed in itself, and me knowing that taking the steps to move forward with my education that was holding me back to find a job so I could support myself. So I make sure I've made changes in those areas that I thought was affecting me.
And the certificate for computer education technology, can you tell me a little bit about what you envision with that? What kind of doors will that open for you? I understand that remote work is a great option for you. So tell me kind of what that plan looks like in your head.
I was actually thinking about trying to find a job in the workplace where just work behind a desk so I could be around more people and just stay active and be able to just express myself better than instead of working remotely from home where I just be confined to the house. So it's just more about just being out and active more, being able to just stay in the community.
So both of those options are probably very credible. Remote work is plentiful right now, but most workplaces do have ADA accommodations, and obviously computer tech is hot right now. So that's a good degree to come out with. But I guess my question is, what is that? So what can you do with that certificate? Tell me about some of the skills that you're going to bring to the workforce. Pretend this is a job interview. How are you going to sell yourself in the community with what you've done inside in terms of this degree and everything else?
Actually helped me turn into a great typer, learn how to work with Excel. So different Microsoft options of even creating advertisements for different businesses. So that's pretty
How
much.
are you keeping up your skills now that you've got that certificate?
I tend to just go over the little work papers that I have back at the cell just to keep my mind refreshed on it, or even just spending time just typing on my tablet. So I'm pretty stuck to just maintaining typing, finger placements and on the keyboard.
My colleague had asked you about your discipline reports. Again, that concerns me as well as the fact that up until recently, as you acknowledged, your substance issues did not seem to be acknowledged. You already got a lot going on upon your eventual release, an acknowledgement that you have that issue, and putting yourself in a place to deal with it now and in the community is only going to help you because, again, there's a lot happening, and substance abuse is not something that just goes away on its own. So I encourage you to seek out programs now, tomorrow, the next day, as well as when you're back in the community, because that is yet another circle of support for you in order to ensure that you're successful. It's about finding that right social group. Just like you've shed some of the friends that you were with, adding circles is going to be very important to you. And I think that accepting that you have a substance use issue is the first step, but working towards ensuring that it doesn't take over your life again and, you know, circle down into those bad decisions. That's a really important piece. You're in your early 30s now. It's time to man up on some of those situations. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Chance.
So, Mr. Richard, I have two concerns, and I heard it expressed by you. One is you're incarcerated, and you've indicated most of the time you're bored. And then you're in the community, and you were asked how the robbery came into play. And what you said is you were not utilizing your time effectively. So the two go together. You weren't doing anything positive with your time in the community, and here you are incarcerated and you get 15 DRs despite the fact that you've completed some good programs. So I want to hear something a little bit more strong from you about what plan you have in place that's going to allow you to utilize your time more effectively, whether it's you want to go live with your mother again, and she's been supporting you, so you don't have much employment skill. So that's the area that's concerning to me, what you're going to do with your time.
My time, I'm gonna really have to figure it out because I'm actually in a new situation I never experienced out on the world. So I do plan to take every day of it from rehabilitation, figuring out staying AA or NA to work on my sobriety and just finding employment and staying busy, making more time for the family. It's really much.
Mr. Richard, you're 33 years old. You should have brought a paper with you and have a whole list of things of how you're going to, number one, maintain your sobriety, because now that you were made aware that that's a problem, okay, because obviously you were in denial before, and you blame some of the DRs and the reason why you committed the offense as to, not utilizing your time more effectively. So you need to sit down and figure out where your life goes to from now on. What are the next steps for you? And both my colleagues have already given you ideas and outlined what you should be doing. So what you should be telling me is that I'm going to spend however much time I have to complete my 85% in coming up with a plan on what I'm going to do with my time.
Yeah,
I'm going to recommend, Mr. Richard, that, if and when the time comes and you go home with your mother, that she not enable you, but assist you in doing the right things that you need to do.
Okay?
Okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm on set.
I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Richard, that you understand as a convicted felon, you're prohibited from possessing firearms and ammunition for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you are already restricted from doing so, but you made that choice anyway, and you're living the consequences of that choice. And I just wanted to make sure that as you go back out into the community, you know that's not an option for you.
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, we're going to turn the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services. We're going to ask you not to interrupt. Okay, Ms. DeJesus?
I'm sure we're going to hear how Mr. Richard's story and how he wants to become a productive member of the community. I know we are going to hear about his
Jesus?
Could you start over again? We're having some trouble hearing the volume.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll raise my volume a bit. You hear me now?
Yes.
Today, I'm sure we're going to hear about how Mr. Richard is sorry and how he wants to become a productive member of the community. I know we're going to hear about his accomplishments with programs and the effort he has put.
Ms. DeJesus?
Yes.
I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
It's very garbled. Is there an alternative that we could try?
I will come in. I will come in.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Today, I'm sure we're going to hear how Mr. Richard is sorry and how he wants to become a productive member of the community. I know we're going to hear about his accomplishments with programs and the effort he has put since his incarceration. But I do not want anyone to forget that when he was a free man, he made no attempts at anything but a life of crime. Since the shooting, I still have PTSD. The stress caused me and my fiance to split, and I'm asking the court to deny his parole because of this. Thank you.
Do we have an identifier for this is one of several victims?
RS.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Richard, we're going to discuss your case. Give us a few minutes. So, we have a incredibly serious offense involving a firearm with someone who is willing to discharge that firearm at another human being while he was out on probation. And he got, a sizable sentence for that, with 12 years to serve out of the 20. And he's designated, 85%. So he's before us today with an eligibility date in May and an end of sentence a year from August. We don't have a real robust picture of Mr. Richard. He didn't come with a strong release plan. He has a sponsor, but not much of a plan. He has completed some important programs, though, as we've identified, he didn't take away from all of them what we would have hoped, as indicated by the DRs that he subsequently received. He's right about the poor choices that he was making out in the community. He scores a moderate risk to reoffend, and he has a completely different life that he will be discharging to. And that was of his own making for the choices that night in 2015, where he harmed so many. He has 3 years of probation to follow his sentence. And I'm just not in a position today to grant Mr. Richard. There's just not the change for me to have the confidence in his suitability. I would talk with my colleagues about a possible rehear that would, timing-wise, afford him at most a year on discretionary parole supervision. And in that time, I want him to come back with a plan for employment, for recovery, and no disciplinary issues. So that's kind of where I'm at. Ms. Zaposafsu?
I would agree. I would be in favor of a rehear. My concerns surround the fact that he has done work to in the education arena to prepare himself for coming out. Of note, we should also have on the record that we've received letters of support from his aunt, a family friend, a gentleman named Evan Richard, who did not state the relationship, as well as his mother. So it does appear that when he comes out, he will have a circle of support. But I would like to suggest that there be some aftercare and concentration on the substance issues so that they could be handled prior to coming out into the community. So I think I would be interested in rehearing him at the end of the summer, which would give him a full year free of disciplinary reports and still a year of where he would have supervision.
Mm-hmm. And I think we could put in ask the PO to put in the hearing dispo that we'd like the facility to reconsider another go at tier 2. Because maybe he's in a different place now and can benefit from that. But he could also choose to put himself in the AA and NA meetings, Smart Recovery, if they have it there at the facility. So there's some options for him to do some additional work. Your thoughts, Ms. Chance?
I absolutely agree with both of your recommendations. And the year I had him redoing tier 2 and attending NA and A meetings and actually sitting down and coming up with a relapse, a release plan, which would include relapse prevention for him, so that with the support that he will have, he might be able to be a little bit more successful.
Okay. So the reasons for denial, I would suggest, are injury and impact to the victim, poor institutional adjustment, and inadequate evidence of offender change.
Yeah.
Would you like to add any, change any?
No, I second that.
The others that we would use are static, and that's not going to make a difference in his rehear. All right, Mr. Richard. In the matter of Rumone Richard, inmate number 391569, there is a motion to deny parole for the following reasons. the injury and impact caused to the victims, your poor institutional adjustment and inadequate evidence of offender change. I further move to rehear you in August of this year with the recommendations that you remain free of any additional disciplinary issues, that you look to participate in positive programming, and come back before the board with a solid release plan that includes relapse prevention. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So, Mr. Richard, we were not able to see our way clear to you being suitable at this time, but we are offering to rehear you in August, and you will get all this in writing, and we hope that you'll dig in and do some additional hard work.
All right.
Okay, good luck.
All right, thank you.
This concludes the hearing for Ramone Richard, 391-569. Mr. Richard, you receive all this in writing, okay?
All right.
I'd like to.